Good morning, this is E.T. A beautiful day in Australia. Today it's best to we're going to examine the greens in a bit more detail, the green left, because some of us understand what they are and what they're doing quite succinctly and completely. That's why cooperacy, 21st century democracy, is an alternative to what the green left are offering. Green left are offering divisiveness and poverty and massive debt. Cooperacy offers remedies and solutions. But first of all, some insights into what the greens really are, what they really are. Not the front you see on TV, but what they really are just below the surface. They're elite capitalists, that's what they are. The Greens are against capitalism. Some of their members are communists and say they're going to destroy capitalism in Australia, which is a very dangerous idea. But they work for capitalists elsewhere who are involved in financing windmills and solar. The renewable energy corporations of Europe are financial organisations. They don't manufacture windmills. They're manufactured in China, a communist state. Someone's got to finance these through the money we borrow to pay for them. They're called capitalists. The Greens work for capitalists in Europe. And amongst the Greens here in Australia, there are agents who are getting extremely rich out of wind and solar, which is subsidised by every pensioner in the country, every business, every hospital, every school in the country subsidises now the aspirations of the Greens. The elite Greens are making millions of dollars out of their very bad math, climate change economic. There's nothing intelligent about what they're doing, and what the Green Left are totally affiliated with the Green Left in Europe are doing to Europe, bringing all the masses of immigrants in when there's a problem with employment and economics anyway, is a recipe for trouble, and they want to do the same to Australia and the same to America. There's nothing wrong with immigration, but the way they're doing it in times when the economy is in stress and massive deficit, it cannot be a good thing unless you've got a proper plan what to do with the migrants, or a proper economic plan, which they haven't. Greens are already responsible, the Green Left are already responsible for increasing cost of every service and running of every home, and are pushing a communistic idea about equality. In other words, anyone who tries hard and brings their kids up properly, the Greens are basically attacking and want them to bring them down to a level so it all seems equal. If you try hard, the people who don't try hard, the Greens want to reward them the same, which means that kills off the spirit. No one wants to do things and work hard and try hard if you're going to get punished for it and bring you down to another level because someone's jealous of you and it's envious. They're creating envy with this everyone must be equal, when in nature it's almost impossible. Everyone has a chance of being equal in the way they behave, in the choices they make. That's equality. It's a philosophical thing, not a material thing, and it's up to people to behave themselves equally to others. And that will, in themselves, if you eat properly, you don't drink too much, etc., you can have a good healthy life no matter what your material status. Equating material status with equality is a very bad idea, and also very pure propaganda indeed, that works against everyone in the community, not just the rich or the poor, but everyone, because it sets society against itself. That's what it has always done. The party to call the Greens are enemies of everyone's children, even their own. Even if they become elite socialist force, like in Korea or in China, but they'll be worse than China, There's already a totalitarian system in Australia when it comes to working and employment rules and regulations, and the Greens want to jail people who disagree with them about climate change, which means that's like being the Roman Catholic Church in the Spanish Inquisition sort of thing. And it's worse because it means there's no science anymore. They've killed off science by saying you have to have a specific opinion that agrees with theirs, otherwise you're jailed or in trouble or ostracized or attacked. That's not science. That is fundamental extremist religion, and that's why they join some ways emotionally with extremist Islam and invite extremist Islam into places like Europe. I want to invite extremist Islam into places like Australia because they emotionally connect with these anti-Western forces. Bad math, which is the math that is based on a purely selfish idea that accumulates a body of people towards itself because they're all getting the same selfish gain no matter what the cost is to the society. In other words, they create an equation what brings more and more currency to them and takes away possible currency into the economy to create the work and employment. That's bad math system. It causes a pathology. All the leftist calls for equality based on nothing they can relate to naturally. Natural humanity spreads this as those within the inner circle capitalize on the increasing cost and increasing revenue directed into emotional things like education. Education doesn't need any more money. It needs just a better method and system. Money cannot educate people. The best way to educate people is start in the home, not in the schools. If you haven't got your kid prepared for school by the time it's 5 or 6, it's not the teacher's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's the parents' fault. Before people have children, maybe it should have an education first. That's where they should take people out. Or you're going to have a baby, you got to become educated how to bring up a baby. Then your babies will end up with a good education. You don't do it the other way. It's too late. Greens and the re-emergence of the left are about as bad a thing as one has witnessed in one's life in relationship to how one feels about freedom, liberty, democracy, and how we all must at least try to compete within our own economic paradigm and not expect handouts for not trying. But just because a party says we are all equal when we are not, we do not deserve ever to be treated equally materially to those that are skilled, talented or educated who dedicate themselves through great effort. I don't expect as much because of my own philosophy as those who put an awful lot of effort into getting rich. Good on them. I'm not jealous of them at all. I don't care one iota if someone's richer and wealthier than me. It makes no difference. So why does it make any difference to anyone else if someone's richer and wealthier than them? If you don't feel equal to someone because you have got less wealth, you've got a psychological and emotional problem, not a material problem. And the Green left appeals that it's the most humane force, when in fact scientifically, because what it's putting into people's heads, it's inhumane to say you can't compete with each other. You've all got to be equal. To bring everyone down to a level, it's like North Korea where they all look exactly the same and dress the same and look the same. That's the idea of equality. That's the end result. 3 generations from now, if the Greens had their way, Australia would look like North Korea. There'd be extreme poverty, and the elite who went along with this rubbish would be all looking and dressing identical, of course with total sexual freedom, and that's about the only freedom there'd be. People don't quite understand economics enough, or what capitalism actually is. In its true sense, capitalism is not just about big finance, which the Greens are working with. Capitalism is about individual effort, capitalising on their own energy, capitalising on their own potential, And the parents' job is to make sure children are brought up so they're equipped to compete in the world, not give them excuses for not being able to compete. People choose to get drunk. People choose not to get drunk. People choose to look after their health. People choose not to look after their health. They make their own choices, and it's the same with bringing children up. People choose to bring up the children well. People choose not to bring up the children well. That's how life is. If you want to compete in the world and equality, nothing to do with material, it's how you go through life. Because in the end, when you get to 65 and you're healthy and fit and still living a reasonable life, you're equal to every other person regardless how wealthy they are. Because in the end, health's the most important thing you can have. That is the only real equality we have. How healthy we are as we go through our life, in our mind and in our body. That is what equality is. Equality in the material sense is really a very, very dangerous idea. Anyway, thank you. This is E.T. on a lovely sunny day in Australia.